everybody, my name is Melissa and welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing one of my end of the year videos. I didn't do this one last year, but I had been thinking about doing it all year long. So I compiled a list of 5 surprising books and 5 disappointing books. These are books where I went in either thinking that I was going to really like them or really hate them. And you know, my thoughts ended up changing by the end of these books. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with one of the disappointing books. And unfortunately, it's one that I wanted to really love. It's a lot of people's favorites and it's a very hyped book, and that is Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating. It has a trope in it that I'm just really not a big fan of, and unfortunately it just didn't work for me. So this book is about Josh and Hazel, who have been friends for a very long time. Josh goes through a breakup and they start, you know, hooking each other up with these blind dates, and none of them are going very well. So this is a cute friends to lovers romance that was so cute until this one part and this one trope that happened, and unfortunately I just couldn't get behind this book. So up until that point I really did like it, and I was just left disappointed in this book, and I really wish I had liked it more since so many people really love it. So this next book that I'm going to talk about is a surprising book, and that's going to be Ash Princess by Laura Sebastian. This is a YA fantasy book that's based on this one girl who lost everything. She was once the princess, and this invading country came in and ended up murdering her whole family, and she's kind of kept around by, you know, her enemies. So anytime there's any type of revolt or backlash from her people, she's kind of used as the symbol, you know, she is made an example of. So that's why they keep her. She also wears a crown of ash during, you know, big ceremonies, things like that, to show that she is the Ash Princess. Her kingdom has crumbled. So this book is very tropey. I knew that going in, so I wasn't really expecting too much, but I ended up really liking this book. I read it in like a day and a half. Honestly, I could have finished this much faster, but the way it's written, you just keep flying through the pages, and I really did enjoy it. I'm not sure if I'm going to continue on with the series. I believe the new book, or the very last book in this trilogy, comes out next year, and you know, maybe I'll go ahead and pick up the second book. But yeah, definitely was very surprised by this book and how much I enjoyed it. So the next book I'm going to talk about is a disappointing read, and that is going to be another YA fantasy called Grim Lovelies by Megan Shepherd. This was definitely a cover buy for me. I saw it kind of all over BookTube. Not very many people were reading it, but I bought it. The cover was gorgeous, and I was really hoping that the story would be amazing as well. Unfortunately, it just left me wanting more. This is about a girl who was an animal. She was turned into a human by this witch. The witch ends up dying through mysterious circumstances, and she has so many days to figure out, you know, how she can stay human because they don't want to turn back into animals. This is set in Paris and kind of goes back and forth through France, and unfortunately I just felt like, I don't know, the story was just running in circles. There wasn't really a lot to it. I definitely wanted a little bit more. This definitely felt like it was trying to be older YA, but felt like while I was reading it, it was younger YA, and just a lot of things I just didn't really understand. So unfortunately, I wanted so much more from this, and I didn't quite get it, and it was very disappointing. For one of my very surprising reads, that's going to be Nevernight by Jay Kristoff. This is a book that I started reading a year, 2 years ago, and ended up putting down because I just wasn't feeling it. This book is a adult fantasy that deals with a girl who wants to become an assassin. Her family has been murdered, and she wants revenge on those who killed her family. So she decides that the assassin school is the way to go. So the way this story is told, it has footnotes in it, and when I was reading it physically, I just couldn't get into it. Me and footnotes just don't vibe. I don't like taking myself out of the story and going and reading somewhere else and having to come back. So I ended up picking this book up earlier this year via audiobook. And audiobook is definitely the way to go with this story because it was seamless. The narrator did such an amazing job at bringing this world to life. A lot of people do find it a little bit weird that the main character is a girl and it's narrated by a man, but honestly, like, it didn't bother me too much. But yeah, I really liked the first book. Unfortunately, the third book I didn't really like the ending of this series or trilogy, but yeah, this one was very surprising and I definitely was so happy that I finally gave it a chance and read it. So this next book actually was very disappointing, and unfortunately when I went into it I didn't really have too many expectations, but I was really hoping that it would go a lot better than it did, and that is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. Leigh Bardugo is a very popular YA fantasy author. She has, obviously I'm sure you've heard of her with her Six of Crows duology and her Grisha trilogy. So this is her first step into adult fantasy. It is about a young woman who goes to Yale and she becomes a part of a secret society, and her secret society polices the other secret societies in Yale, making sure that the magic that they're doing doesn't cross too many boundaries. Unfortunately, with this book, the reason why it was disappointing to me was the fact that I just felt so confused. You're dropped in at a particular point and you don't really get too many answers, and honestly I felt like the answers that I wanted never got answered. So sadly this was a disappointment read for me because the big question I had was never answered. I just felt confused the entire time, wanted a little bit more from it, wanted a lot more explanation to the magic and so on and so forth. Also, I had no idea that there were definitely trigger warnings for this book for abuse and sexual assault, and I had no idea going into this that those were a part of that. So yeah, just be aware. But if you are interested, I definitely say give it a try. I have gone back and watched several different reviews from other, fantasy YouTubers and things like that, and saw that they really enjoyed it and listened to what they had to say in their points of view. And I mean, I'm definitely interested in continuing on with the second book just because of that fact and what they were saying. So, maybe I just went in with very low expectations and, I don't know. I'm interested in going on and continuing them. So this next book that I have to talk about is one that I went into with absolutely no expectations at all, and I think that's why I liked it so much, and that's going to be Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. I read Fangirl and I absolutely loved it, and then I decided that I wasn't going to read Carry On because I just wasn't sure how, her fan fiction would translate into an entire book. I know this book was very Harry Potter inspired, and it definitely had those vibes, and when I was reading it, that's what surprised me the most was how comforting this book kind of felt. It read definitely like fan fiction of Draco and Harry Potter, and what I liked about this is Simon is the chosen one. He is very bad at being the chosen one rather than Harry, who kind of does all these amazing things. So I did enjoy this a lot. I had so much fun with it. The magic system was a little bit interesting because I had no idea that, it takes songs versus quotes, things like that are, very powerful because people use them all the time and that's their magic, which was really interesting and fun to kind of see. So yeah, definitely one that I wish I had picked up a lot sooner, but I do have Wayward Son, which I'm very excited to get my hands on and read. Well, I have it. I just need to read it. So yeah, this was very surprising. Loved it so much. Yes. So this next book I have is a disappointing read. It was a reread for me that I read during the used bookathon, and that's Gabriels Inferno. So when I first picked this up several years ago in my early 20s, I just finished 50 Shades of Grey, and I think I was really into that, super tropey, angsty man who has a lot of, family issues, and he gets adopted by this wealthy family, and that's exactly what this is. It definitely has, this angstiness. She is the professor's student, and definitely forbidden, things like that, which I loved when I was reading it. Obviously, I was in school, at the time, and I don't know. It worked for me then. It didn't really work for me now. I was really disappointed by this reread. I just felt like it just wasn't as good as I remembered it. I think that was the problem. But yeah, I read it the first time. Obviously, I think my taste as a reader has changed. It's not that this is a bad book. I think I just had way higher expectations of this book going in and rereading it rather than if I had picked it up for the first time. This next book that I have is a very surprising read. It actually took me a while to pick this one up because I was just so on the fence about it because I didn't like her first novel, and that is going to be Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. I read An Enchantment Ravens, didn't really like it. I just felt like it was way too short. I didn't get enough of the world and just felt like I needed more from that story. But when I picked this book up, I didn't get that same feeling. This is about a girl who wants to be a librarian, and the librarians end up protecting the world from these books that end up coming to life and becoming monsters. So this is her story. Something happens one night, one of those books escapes and becomes a monster, and she has to track it down. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I loved the idea of, magical libraries in these books that have these different personalities, and it was so much fun to read, and I really enjoyed this character, the love interest as well, and the side characters. In all honesty, I would love for this to, continue on, and I want to see more of this world and these characters. I just felt like at the ending, I want more. So hopefully that will happen. I'm not sure, but yeah, definitely a huge surprise for me, considering that last year when I read An Enchantment of Ravens just didn't do it for me, and this one was one of my favorites. So for the very last disappointing read was one that I am so sad about. I don't think I've read anything by this author until this book, and I want to give her another try, but we'll see. And that's going to be Ruin and Rule by Pepper Winters. So this is an MC motorcycle second chance romance, and unfortunately, I did not like this book. There is abuse from the hero to the heroine, and you see that she's just like so in love with him, and he's doing these awful things to her because he doesn't know it's her. I don't know. Either way, it just bothered me a lot. I just felt uncomfortable when I was reading it. I know some people really do like this book, and I read a lot of dark romances, but I think the fact that it was the main love interest that was abusing her physically in such a way, it just didn't sit right with me. So unfortunately, I didn't really like this. It was very disappointing, and yeah, I just didn't vibe with this book. I know a lot of people do like this author and like what she has to write, so I'm very interested to continue on with some of her other books and give her another try, because I just don't want this to be the only one that, we leave off on. And yeah, I'm pretty sure I want to find a redeeming quality in these books. So I ended up picking up a reverse harem series called Bound Spirit. I read the first 3 books this year and absolutely fell in love with them. I was very surprised because I have been seeing these coming up on my Amazon Kindle Unlimited recommendations, and just like because of the cover, I was like, no, I don't think so. I'm so glad I gave it a chance. So this is, like I said, a reverse harem paranormal romance. Reverse harem means one girl, multiple love interests, and yeah, it's basically a harem but reverse. See, I love reverse harem tropes. It's one of my favorite subgenres, and this was one of my favorite discoveries of the year. So it's about a girl who moves into a new town. She doesn't really know who she is. She doesn't realize that she has powers, and she is surrounded by all of these, magical paranormal beings. And it was a lot of fun to kind of discover her friendship with these guys that she surrounds herself with, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. You have ghosts, you have werewolves, you have vampires, lots of fun. I freaking loved it. It definitely was reminiscent of the Veiled Diaries, and if you know that book or read it, oh my gosh, I'm pretty sure you will love this as well. It was very surprising, and I'm so glad I gave it a chance and picked it up. It was one of my absolute favorites. Alrighty guys, thank you so much for watching my most surprising, my most disappointing books of 2019. I am so happy that, we're coming to the end of the year. We're gonna start new, start fresh, start a whole new Goodreads reading challenge. This has been a wonderful year for me, myself, and I for reading, since I've already read over 203 books, which just like blows my mind. I never thought I would read that much in my life, but here we are. If you've read any of these books or have any thoughts or opinions on them, I would love to talk about it and chat about it in the comments down below. And I hope you have a great day and happy reading. Bye!